Welcome back, everyone. The time has finally come to start a new speedrun on chess.com. Now, you may have watched my previous speedrun, the beginner to master speedrun, where I started at a 400 elo. I worked all the way up to 2400. This is going to be a similar concept. I will be starting at a 400 elo, but I'm going to be playing more aggressive, tricky, and trappy style of chess. I'll try to win games as quickly as possible, maybe play a bit more dubiously, but it should be really fun and hopefully still instructive as well. So for this video, I actually have to play about 10 to 15 games to get a more established rating, after which chess.com staff can reset the rating and then I can start the actual speedrun. And I do have my fresh account. It's called Someone Call an Ambulance. And this is an authorized speedrun account on chess.com. All opponents will get their rating refunded. Assuming I beat them, then they will have their points refunded. So that's usually how speedrun accounts work. And yeah, I haven't played any games yet on this account. So without further ado, let's hop into the first game. I do agree to treat others how you want to be treated. Sure, although I'm going to show no mercy over the board. But I will be polite in chat. Good luck to my first opponent. I'm actually wondering why it's not showing any rating. But I assume this is rated. We're going to start with a Blackmar-Diemer gambit. Pawn e4. Yeah, I actually have no idea why it's not showing the rating, but maybe after this game, I'll see if I actually get a number next to my name. Black plays this move, so not taking the free pawn. If Black were to take, I was ready to play f3. In this case, I'm going to just expand, attack the knight. And yeah, there's a few options where the knight can move. There's knight e4. But knight e4 already gets trapped with pawn f3. There's also knight d7. A bit safer, but also a bit more passive. Opponent plays knight h5. Okay. No mercy. Taking the free knight. Developing my queen. Yeah, I think the first few games in this video are probably going to be maybe a small bloodbath. I'm going to still try and win quickly. So yeah, with knight f3, I just want to develop, maybe go for knight g5 and immediately target this pawn. Yeah, I'll still go for knight g5. Now I am leaving this pawn undefended. If Black were to take it, then there's some fun lines that can emerge after c3. I could willingly get forked and then eventually win the bishop and focus on my own attack. So the ball is in Black's court. I will say it was maybe more principled to play bishop b5 first, to pin the knight, and then later go for this move. And Black has a few options here. There's pawn g6. But Black does go for knight d4. Okay, so now let's go for this line, pawn c3, allowing the fork. This is risky chess. Oh no, my rook. Now I take the bishop, and there's this nice pin against the king. And there's some very fun lines that can emerge here. Black goes for queen c8. I was kind of hoping for queen d7 to play bishop b5 and some fun pin and fork tactics. But with queen c8, I have to be a little bit more careful. Black does want to take my knight. Yeah, I think I'll just return to this square. Still targeting f7. There's also ideas of eventually playing pawn e6. And very often, f7 is a key focal point. Black goes on the counterattack, though, not only defending, but threatening queen b1 and queen c2 check. So I have to be really careful here. f2 is also hanging. Let's play knight a3. So saving the knight, defending c2. This is already a pretty messy game to kick off this series. Okay, black takes the pawn, but leaves his pawn undefended, taking on f7. And now I get some nice initiative. Though it still takes work to checkmate the king. So there's a few moves that come to mind here. I mean, bishop b5, of course you always want to consider the checks, but that is pretty easily met with c6. I'm going to play bishop to f4. A queen defends a bishop. Bishop attacks a queen. And very often when it comes to attacking, it is important to try and get as many pieces involved with attack as possible. So already here, my bishop, my queen, my knight are all coordinating pretty nicely. There's really no good way for black to attack my king. And the queen is almost trapped here. The queen maybe only has one safe square on f6. Like all these other squares are controlled. So will black find the safe move? If black plays queen f6, I can probably pretty happily take the pawn on d5. Yeah, always nice to take free material with check. Now the king has... Okay, well, the king had two options. This was another option, but now I'll take the queen. And let's try and finish off the job as efficiently as possible here. I'll bring the bishop in. The knight will come in next, most likely. Although here, yeah, maybe it makes more sense to start with a queen check. If king d8, then this is checkmate. Actually, either move would be checkmate. If king b8, I'll still go in with a knight, threatening queen c7 checkmate. Okay, no mercy. Winning the first game in 19 moves? Ah, okay, so it says play 4 more standard games to be rated. Cool. Okay, so I guess I need to play more games to get a rating. It's been a while since I've made a new account on chess.com. So let's hop into the next game. Okay, playing Ninja 8923. I wonder if I'm also playing new accounts. So I could actually be playing potentially strong players, but I could also be playing complete newbies. So I'm playing the Englund Gambit, which my opponent does not take my pawn. So let's take on d4. And I imagine throughout the series we're going to see a lot of gambits like the Englund, maybe some Budapest gambits. Okay, here I just want to prioritize development. Before attacking, you do have to develop your pieces to central and active squares. White's being a little bit slow, like having moved the queen twice, putting it back on d1. a3 is not the most useful move. It did prevent bishop b4 check, but I'm very happy to develop the bishop to target the f-pawn. And I think we're going to see a theme with these early games of targeting the opponent's f-pawn. It's usually one of the biggest weak points in both sides, f2 and f7, early in the game. Only pawn defended by just the king. Now, if I really want, I could be aggressive, like knight g4, but white has an easy way of defending with pawn e3. So I'm going to castle, just to get my rook to the half-open e-file. And I like the prospect of just having all the pieces ready to pounce. And white's being very slow with doing anything on the king side. So white plays h3. Okay, already trying to look for things. I mean, it does prevent knight g4, but let's continue with my plan. Rook to e8. And I'm thinking very soon this knight will come in. There might be some potential like smother mating ideas. Okay, white plays bishop g5, so I don't think I can resist here. I'm going to play knight to e4 and say, oh no, my queen. Now, knight e4 is not a good move because white can take my knight, but they don't, and this is checkmate. Okay. Yeah, this is maybe the definition of hope chess, where you play an objectively bad move, hoping the opponent doesn't play the best response. If my opponent were to take, then I would have been in trouble because my queen still attacked, the knight defends the bishop. I would have lost a piece, and my bishop's also attacked here. But yeah, it's the nature of being tricky and trappy. Probably won't be able to get away with such things at a higher rating level. But let's move on. Try and keep the speed. Playing Chester from Australia. And maybe I can get a Stafford Gambit? If knight takes e5, I'll play knight c6. Okay, white plays pawn d4, which is a very playable move against a Petroff. And this is somewhat of an anti-Stafford Gambit, where I can't get my usual tricky and trappy lines that I like from the Stafford. But we're actually going into some pretty mainline theory. I'm going to play the weirdest move, knight c6, which does leave my knight hanging, but after d5, I will win back a minor piece. I attack the bishop. If bishop d3, I can fork with pawn e4. And there's no way for white to save the bishop and or the knight. Now, I'm pretty sure this position has been seen at Grandmaster level. I do kind of forget the move, though. So white allows a fork. Should note if queen to e2, that would pin the pawn, but I could very simply break the pin and still be forking. All right, let's win back the knight. And we've reached a position where it's equal material. I'm going to set up a trap here, bishop to d6, which seemingly leaves a pawn undefended. Okay, white doesn't take it. If white were to take it, I would have had bishop b4 check to win the queen. But it doesn't happen. So we're getting a relatively solid position for both sides. I do have double pawns, but this is still a relatively solid structure. And I have the bishop pair, which is usually preferable over bishop knight, especially when the position becomes more open. And with the bishops already pointed towards white's kingside, I can hopefully try and attack very soon. I actually like the idea of playing queen h4, very simply threatening checkmate in one. And it's actually a fork. I not only hit h2, but I also hit d4. So queen h4 I think is actually just the best move. And white would like to get the knight here to defend h2 and d4, but the queen's in the way. So let's go ahead and win the d-pawn. It's a very key center pawn. And maybe I can keep trying to attack. Like, yeah, in this position, queen e5 looks very attractive. I might actually be winning more material, maybe even mating if white's not careful. Setting up the bishop-queen battery towards h2. If white plays g3, I would win h3. If white plays bishop f4, I just take it. And that's a free bishop. And now we are, I was going to say we are heading towards endgame, but okay, white resigns. So another pretty quick win, 15 moves. I'm getting closer to getting a rating. Let's keep it going. Playing SKM, many sevens. This time I'll play E4. And okay, let's play a gambit. There's a few gambits that can emerge after pawn D4. It seems like my opponents today are not accepting my gambits. But F6 is a very weakening move and actually walks into some nastiness from early on. Queen H5, attacking the king, attacking the pawn. This is one reason why you should usually avoid moving the F-pawn so early. Now I'll be winning the rook next move. I think my opponent is realizing there's sorrows here. Black does have a few legal moves. King F7. There's also 3 different ways to block the check. Resigning, I guess, is another option. Yeah, tough game for my opponent. Just to show, F6 is maybe one of the worst possible moves for black. Of course, Queen G5 is also pretty bad, hanging in queen. The best move is to take. I think I was ready to play a Danish gambit, which is C3 takes bishop C4. White sacks 2 pawns, but gets 2 bishops. Hopefully we'll see this at some point over the course of the series. But okay, that was the quickest win so far. 5 moves. Let's go again. Playing T Hughes. Play E4. This time we have a Scandinavian. I'll take the pawn. Queen D8 Scandi. So usually players who play this have watched some John Bartholomew video or maybe some video on YouTube recommending it. I'm usually pretty happy to play against the Queen D8 Scandinavian because white has already a very good lead in development. Castle very quickly. Black is underdeveloped on the king side. And let's try and be aggressive here. I could start with rook E1. I'm also considering D4. I'll start with rook E1. I'm not sacrificing anything, just pressuring the pawn, also aligning with the king. Maybe setting up D4 for next move. Yeah, usually, like strong players who play the Queen D8 Scandi don't go for the quick E5 because sometimes the pawn is better on E6 to restrict the bishop. So black is developing with no fear. All right, let's take the pawn. Trying to open the file to get to the king. Queen D4, so attacking this, but maybe missing the fact that I have an attack of my own. Knight takes C6 as check, also hitting the queen. I will be winning the queen next move. Yeah, so far these games they're all about punishing beginner mistakes. I think the most glaring mistake of my opponents are, first of all, not developing quickly enough, but also leaving themselves with weaknesses that can pretty easily be exploited. So, rook's attacked. Go ahead and move it back and attack the bishop. Might as well take and open my bishop. I do want to get to the king as quickly as possible. Give a check. It's actually very close to force mate. Yeah, that's checkmate. So I've completed the first 5 games, and I finally have a rating, 909. So again, this rating will eventually be reset. So let's keep it going. Trying to save time here and not do too much game review. But hopefully just playing the games and explaining my thoughts will provide enough insight into how to win quickly against these opponents. And again, going to go for Stafford Gambit. We did see my opponent play d4 earlier, but now we have the beginning of a Stafford. Will my opponent accept? They do. So this is one of my favorite gambits. If you watch my videos at all, you've probably seen me play this a bunch of times. And my opponent's walking into one of the most common traps. Like knight c3 and d3 seem like a natural combination of moves. But yeah, the fact that I target f2, I'm going to be winning back a pawn with a very good position. So material is back to equal, but I have the bishop pair, and perhaps most importantly, I have the dark square bishop, which does make life very difficult for white. I'm already threatening bishop g4 to trap the queen. Just reinforcing the bishop. h4 would be an attempt to drive my queen away, but h4 would allow queen g3 check. Okay, white plays rook d1. Now this is a skewer, but it's also a queen trap. And I don't see any way for white to escape. h4 would be a counterattack, but then I just move my queen. Actually, I think queen f4 would be the only move there to keep both bishops defended. So no mercy. Okay, at this point I think I just want to get my rooks involved. I don't have any center pawns. That means I have two half-open center files. And let's give a check. Not quite mating, because there is pawn g3. But now I'm threatening checkmate in 1. The opponent allows it. GG. Yeah, tough game for my opponent. As most people should know, the Stafford Gambit is objectively dubious. According to the engine, white's clearly better here, plus 1.5. But there's just so many ways for white to go wrong. d3 is a blunder. Bishop c4 is also a blunder due to knight g4. Best move here is h3 to prevent knight g4. One small fun fact is, I think one of the very first times Hikaru encountered the Stafford Gambit, he actually fell into this exact trap, d3 knight g4. And he was playing, I think, like a 1200 rated player. He still managed to win the game, but it was funny that even a super GM like Hikaru could walk into such a position. So anyway, let's keep it going. Playing Are You Smart Yet? Let's play e4. And I'm going to try and get a Danish Gambit. Opponent copies me. Interesting. Yeah, it's a funny move because takes. We could trade queens, but I don't really want to go for a queen trade so early. Any tricks or traps I can go for here? I think I'll take this pawn first. And then try and focus on development. Probably look to play knight c3 next. Okay, let's develop. This is already a good sign. My opponent has spent 2 moves moving the queen. I've used this time to develop some minor pieces. And especially at the lower levels, focusing on like basic principles of bringing your minor pieces towards the center early on, it goes a long way. Very often you can get a big advantage by just developing quickly. I'm going to play bishop e2 to break the pin, reinforce my knight. There's a small trap here. If takes, I'll be skewering the queen on the long diagonal, probably winning the b7 pawn. I actually kind of forgot about that move. If I take with knight, I lose this thing. If I take with bishop, then this bishop's pinned and I allow this. So I'm going to play knight d2. Developing my final minor piece, attacking the queen, and reinforcing the knight. This is what we call an in-between move. Usually refers to a situation where you have a recapture, but instead of recapturing, you play a counterattack first. And now I can safely take on d4. And then recapture with knight. I could also recapture with bishop, actually. Yeah, let's capture with bishop. It does leave my bishop hanging, but then I take on b7. And I'll be winning the rook. Presumably. I could trade queens here, which I think I might have to do, because if I play king f1, there's queen b5, and then that would really backfire. So, I mean, do I go for this move, actually? Or any trap after f5? No, let's play queen e2. Yeah, usually when I want to win as quickly as possible, then I'm very reluctant to trade queens, but I think queen e2 is very necessary there. And I'll try and bring my rooks to the center files ASAP. Align with black's king. Play knight e4. Control the center. Attack the bishop. And keep attacking the bishop. So black counterattacks my bishop. Fair enough. Okay, I'll take... I think this is the first endgame that we're seeing today. I am up in material. I have a rook and pawn for knight. And there's a few different strategies to win a position like this. The quickest possible way to win will be to try and create some back rank mate against the black king. Let's keep expanding. Pawn f4. I want to drive the knight away and then invade with the rook. Okay, let's keep kicking the knight. The knight is already going to be forced to a somewhat awkward square. Knight b4. I guess the knight is maybe coming to d5. So let's go for this. Attacking the pawn and then e7, and now I'll double up. Actually, yeah, doubling should be fine. I'm threatening to take the knight and then try and set up some back rank. Now black could move the knight and unleash the pin on the e-file. h6 is also a very fine move, making Luft for the king. So back rank ideas are not happening. Let's go for king f3. Getting off the e-file, supporting my knight. If knight d5, I'll be very happy to take. If knight takes a2, then maybe I can trap the knight. If knight takes a2, I can play rook d4. Knight f5 is played. Oh, black wants to play this. Do I allow it? Okay, let's just trade. I think this is simplest. This forces a trade of rooks, and then eventually I'll go after these pawns. Or maybe I'll go for a mating attack on the king side. Like, even though black has a square on h7, I could look to storm, try and use my knight. There's g4. how to do this. All right, I'm going to take and then play g4. I'm realizing I'm very close to trapping this knight. But there is knight c2 potentially. Like a3. But after a3, knight c2, the knight is running very low on squares. Oh, there's actually a really elegant line where I potentially checkmate in about 5 moves. I'm gonna play this, attacking the knight. It forces the knight most likely to e1 or e3. Maybe there's a small possibility black will go in the corner. But let's imagine, yeah, knight e3, I play this move. And now if the knight moves, let's say like d5, then I have mate in 2. Knight f6, double check, taking away d7. And regardless of king d8 or king f8, rook e8 is checkmate. So that was a nice, efficient way to win. Nice little calculation too. Wasn't forcing, but goes to show that there's still mating potential even with so few pieces on the board. I think that was the longest game so far. Yeah, maybe objectively the best move was to take on e5. Yeah, the most principled approach is to take, go for the queen trade, and play this. And yeah, white is doing quite well, having kept castling rights. And yeah, maybe I should have just gone for this. Like, despite queens being off the board, it's still very, very pleasant for white. So let's keep it going. Playing GG Fei. We can see my rating is increasing at a pretty rapid rate, which won't quite be the case in the main speed run. The rating growth will be a bit more gradual. Okay, so we have another Englund Gambit declined. D5 is maybe already considered a concession because it allows me to have a really nice diagonal for this bishop. White plays bishop to e3. I'm happy to take and already kind of expose white's king. And I think I'm actually winning a pawn after queen h4. Assuming g3, then I have queen e4 attacking the rook and the e-pawn. White plays king d2, so this might actually save everything for white. Queen b4, king c1. All right, let's develop. Get the knight into play, threatening this. I'm also threatening to play knight e4 and then knight f2 potentially. Okay, a few choices here. Play queen e4, attacking the rook. And then if knight f3, I can take and hit the pawn. And knight f3 is actually the only way, I was going to say the only way to save the rook. And bishop g2, I guess, is some attempt to save the rook, but loses a bishop. So I'm happy to take. Still attacking the rook. We're probably going to see knight f3. And it is true the queen is a little bit deep in white's territory, but it's not getting trapped. I can actually probably keep winning material with knight e4 and then knight f2. Yeah, that looks pretty good. If king e1, then it's mate. So also king d3, it's a triple fork. So we'll probably see king c1. Well, we see king d3. Okay. Yeah, sometimes hard to predict my opponent's moves at this level. No mercy here. The rook isn't really that relevant. More relevant is a king and queen. We'll take the queen with check. And when it rains, it pours for white. On the rook and queen. And if white were to take, I would have taken on e2 and still won more material. Okay, another Englund Gambit victim. Yeah, with Englund Gambit, the best move for white is to take. And then, I'm not actually sure if I would have played bishop c5 or knight c6. There's two tricky lines that could emerge. Also, f6, I think, is called the solar gambit. Anyway, we'll probably see more of this throughout the series. But let's keep it going. Playing Herrstrom 100. And yeah, more of this we do see. Englund Gambit. What do I want to do? Let's play f6, the solar gambit. I think there's a lot of like shorts content online regarding this gambit. To be honest, I really haven't played much of it myself, but the point is f-file's open, and when black castles, there's more potential to attack eventually. And yeah, let's get a setup with pawn d5, control space, open up this bishop. Now bishop g4 isn't as attractive as normal because the bishop's already on e2, so I wouldn't be pinning. I think I'll start with knight c6. And yeah, I'm not sure if I want to play like bishop f5 or bishop g4, maybe just wait, do something else. I kind of like the idea of queen e8. This is very typical when you are missing an f-pawn, then the queen can maneuver via this diagonal. The plan is probably queen, I was going to say queen g6, but now in this case, queen h5 is a bit more feasible. But now with the bishop committed here, I think I like this move to pin the knight. And queen h5's idea. And even though my bishop is attacked, I'm going to play queen h5 anyway. White takes it, I take back, and I'm down a piece, but it's a very, very scary position for white. And this is actually reminiscent of how Magnus Carlsen beat Bill Gates. They played a pretty famous game. It was part of some, I think, TV show. I think the opening was a Scandinavian, but Magnus had also sacked a piece on g4, very similar to this, to eventually checkmate on h2. And my threat here is rook takes f3 to remove the defender of h2. And it's not easy for white to defend here. I think rook e1 is actually one of the best moves for white. Now if I take, check, and then king f1, I'm not mating. So I'm going to keep building up pressure. I'll play knight e5. Rather than sacrificing the rook, I just attack the knight again. And if white takes, then I go in with queen h2, and it's checkmate eventually on f2. So I have both knights, the queen, the rook, the bishop, all exerting a lot of pressure against white's kingside. And these pieces are just watching from the sidelines. I'm not sure what to expect here. Okay, knight d2 does reinforce the knight, but also leaves the bishop undefended, so I could take the free bishop. And I think I will. Yeah, because I don't see a great way to like finish off attack after takes. There's still this line, but the king will run. But it's nice taking free material. And now I hit the rook and the pawn. So it's looking pretty grim for white. Maybe we'll see rook f1 or rook e2. There might already be ideas of sacking on f2. Yeah, after rook e2, if I take, and then bishop takes e3. That does look quite nice. anything better? Nah, let's go for this. I guess I could have considered taking with other knight. I think it would have been very similar. So the point is, after rook takes f2, I take with my bishop, pinning the rook to the king, and then the bishop and knight will be targeting f2, and there's really no good way for white to defend, I don't think. Although now I'm just realizing white has this move. Maybe white can survive. White plays queen e2, so okay, I happily take, and then check, and it's going to be mate next move. I do quickly want to analyze that, because white was maybe okay. Actually, maybe not. Yeah, knight e4 would have been the best try to unleash the bishop and defend the rook. But then I can take the bishop with my knight, and then take here, and white is still very much pinned down and losing material. So that was a fun game. Yeah, it goes to show the venom of the Solar Gambit. This is a line within the Englund Gambit. f6 led to some fun attacking position in the middle game. So let's keep it going. Playing Queen Obliterator 16. A slightly threatening username. Knight c6. Are we going to see the Colorado Gambit? No, we see a transposition into King's Pawn. I'll play the Scotch opening. Maybe I'll play a Scotch Gambit. Scotch Gambit is after pawn takes pawn. I don't take back, but I play bishop to c4. Black goes for the check on b4. Yeah, this is a common amateur mistake. Even though it looks fun to give a check, it only helps me improve and I gain time on the bishop. Let's keep developing bishop c4. So building up the nice center. Looking for tricks in the center. Like if I take, there is some potential tactic. I'm going to take on e5. So if knight takes e5, I can take and then pawn f4. And we'll see this play out. And the only safe square for the bishop is back to d6, but then I play pawn e5. And I'll be forking the bishop and knight. Now maybe black can go on the counter-offensive. Knight takes e4, allow me to take, and then queen h4. And it could potentially get messy there. So if knight takes, I have to be careful. I might end up playing a move to hit f7. But we'll see if black even finds this. I think if I were black, I would go for knight takes e4. It seems to be the trickiest way to create a mess. And black does find it. So now, yeah, there's definitely some options here. I mean, taking the bishop, I don't know if I have a good response to queen h4, because g3, knight takes g3, and my rook's attacked, and pawn is pinned. So what about this move? Queen to d5. Again, allowing queen h4. The difference would be after g3, takes, my queen actually defends my rook from a distance. Now there is queen takes g3, king d1, but then we get a position where I'm hitting f7 and I'm hitting the bishop. Now looks pretty good. Let's go for this. And the bishop and knight are still hanging. So there are going to be times in these games where I play an objectively bad move to try and win quickly. But I think queen d5 is actually the best approach here. Still being controlled, but still also being aggressive. It is a triple attack. Black castles. So now I do have to be careful. Like if I take either thing with my queen might be the victim of obliteration on the e-file. I think queen takes knight is safe. But with my opponent's username, this position is even scarier. The opponent wants to obliterate. But the bishop's still attacked, so like rook e8, I just take the bishop. If queen h4, I happily play g3. Oh, that move I didn't see. Ah, my queen might actually be lost, but I'm getting a lot of material for it. It takes here. I mean, I could play king f2 actually. King f2 is probably just a better approach. I do put my king in danger, but I make sure that rook e8 does not pin my queen to the king. And I just leave the bishop here, so it's still attacked. Yeah, completely overlooked bishop c3. Kudos to my opponent. And now if rook e8, I can move my queen and hit f7. Okay, here I'll play rook to e1, preventing rook e8. And again, I'm not scared of these checks. I have g3. Okay, opponent does maybe get to capture my queen, but that'll be their final move. Oh, I have pre-moves disabled. Are pre-moves disabled by default? I guess they are. I wanted to pre-move rook takes e8. Okay, well, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah, I won't be pre-moving much in these games, but yeah, GG, 14 moves. Interesting line, though. Just quickly analyze. So the best move according to the engine was queen h5. But queen d5 is still very strong. And actually, I should have taken the bishop, allowed this. And yeah, this would be another example of g3 takes, and my queen defends a rook. It's a nice idea that can easily be overlooked. Anyway, let's keep it going. We go for another, okay, we won't have the Stafford Gambit. We have a King's Gambit. I'm playing the Falkbeer Counter-Gambit. Knight f3 played very quickly. So let's attack the knight. And to be honest, I'm on my own here. But I'll play knight c6. Idea to get rid of this knight, maybe accept double pawns. Perhaps after the game I can explain the opening strategies with the Falkbeer Counter-Gambit against the King's Gambit. But here, okay, let's take the knight. And queen d5 looks nice. A double attack. Okay, opponent being ultra aggressive. I mean, this can come with check, this can also come with check. But I have ways to defend. Pawn c3, I'll play queen d3. Actually, I could also take. And maybe taking is better. Wouldn't allow castling. But then I can develop very quickly. I know it sometimes seems a bit unsettling with the king on f7, but yeah, it's still very safe. Here I'm happy to en passant. Now I can focus on my own attack. Bishop c5 or bishop to d6? Start with bishop c5 check. I want to make threats, but it's still probably a matter of getting my king safe first. I'm going to allow bishop f4 and then probably swing the queen over. White plays bishop d2. So I'm looking for tricks and traps on the king side. But I think first it's necessary just to get my king off the f-file. This unpins my knight. And very likely knight e4, knight g4 is coming. Probably knight g4. Oh no, my bishop. I'm threatening mate. Yeah, I was just, I should have calculated this before playing knight g4. I was just wondering, can I take on f4, allow this, and then go for this? And there's also knight f2. Yeah, let's go for this. Oh no, my queen. And then check. So the point is, if rook f1, I have knight f2. And it becomes a windmill, kind of. Although my bishop's still attacked. Yeah, it gets a little bit weird. But it's a good kind of weird. I have double check. But double check we just repeat. So I think I should just take the queen. Now white should take the bishop. White resigns. Yeah, if taking the bishop, then I could just trade and be up a piece in the endgame. So that was a fun finish though. Nice tactics. Yeah, going back to this opening, this is one of my favorite gambits against the King's Gambit because it aims to be the aggressor. Usually when white plays the King's Gambit, they're trying to be the aggressor. The point here is if white takes on e5, it's a blunder because queen h4 check. And it's a similar pattern to what we saw a few games ago with white missing the f-pawn. The main line is pawn takes d5, and then the main point of the gambit is to play pawn to e4, restricting white's development and usually looking to play this and castle, and eventually win back the pawn. So let's move on. We'll do a few more. Okay, how about I play a King's Gambit myself? Another aggressive opening. Black takes. So the main move is knight f3. I'm going to play bishop c4, which is also kind of tricky. It allows queen h4, which black doesn't play. Okay, after the game, I can explain what I would do if queen h4. Queen e7 is probably already a small mistake because the queen blocks the bishop. And black is trying to target my pawn. Pawn is defended. I'll recapture f4. So it's already looking nice. Nice development. Actually, very harmonious development. Try and castle very soon. We can see that black is a bit slower to develop, especially with the queen blocking the bishop. And yeah, also the fact that white has more space just makes it a bit more difficult for black to find squares for the pieces. Now there is already some potential traps, and they basically stem from this move, knight to d5. The point is to try and induce a trade. After takes, I would take with pawn, and now the e-file is open. And this is a very common theme we can see across many openings, where if the king and queen are aligned, and in this case I'm castled, then tactics are more likely to happen. I'm debating whether to take with knight or bishop. Both moves look good. I'm going to take with bishop. And then take with knight. So it's true my knight's not defended, but if black were to take it, I have rook e1 to pin. In this case, I have a fork. There are a couple checks, but then the king can hide in the corner. I do still have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to take the less active rook. I mainly have to be careful about potential attacks against my king, especially h2. But the queen is pretty far away from doing any damage. And going forward from here, let's activate my queen. Also aiming to get the other rook into play. I'll play rook to e1. I'll go for rook e2. Queen defends the rook, rook attacks the queen, also helps defend c2. I'm doubling up. Actually trying to set up mate as quickly as possible, which my opponent kind of defends against because now the king has a square. Maybe c3 is useful. Counterattack the queen. Even b4. Keep counterattacking. Yeah, whenever you get attacked, I mean, of course you want to look for defense, but it's also good to look for counterattack. Oh, my bishop saved itself. And yeah, I'll go ahead and actually, do I want to take? Take. Just trying to figure out how do I get to the king? I'm going to play this. Thinking eventually I want to prepare the pawn storm. Bishop a2. Yeah, it would be really nice to play c4, c5. I am allowing queen d4, but actually if I get the chance to play c5, I'll be inevitably forking. Queen and bishop or king and bishop. Now black gives me the bishop. I think I'll play c5 first. Attack the queen. Well, maybe I should have taken first. I do allow this move. But still looking very good. Be up a full rook. Let's go into black's territory. Aligning with the king. And black is still resisting. We'll take a pawn. All right, let's set up a pin. I'm threatening rook f6. No mercy. Yeah, really no mercy. Okay. Looks like my opponent abandoned the game there. So, yeah, as I promised, just to show, the point of bishop c4 in the King's Gambit is if black were to play queen h4 check, I would very happily move my king to f1. And then knight f3 is basically guaranteed to attack the queen. And then d4 very likely follows. And this is still objectively okay for black, but it's a fun line for white. A lot of players kind of stumble into this as black and then get a passive position. So let's take a look at my progress so far. I've played 1, 2, 3. Wait, how many games have I played? I've played 12 games. Let's do a couple more. Or at least one more, how about? Okay, playing Chila Quilan from Mexico. And we have knight f3. Yeah, knight f3 it's an opening that it's hard to play a gambit against. But I'm playing g5. This is called the Herrstrom Gambit. And the point is to deflect the knight away from the center and expand with my pawn, very soon to be both center pawns. And here I can keep kicking the knight. That's a funny opening because white's making the first now 5 moves of the game with the knight. And the knight keeps getting kicked. I think after this move, the knight is officially trapped. Now maybe there's compensation, like white could try this and then this, but okay, knight f7, I don't mind taking it. Yeah, I still have to watch out for this queen check. I'm going to play bishop to f5. Not only developing, but anticipating this, and then I have this move. Just very safe construction around my king. And the goal going forward is to complete development, eventually get to white's king. Maybe I can even try and trap white's queen. Already thinking of ideas of like this and this. Might depend where the queen goes though. If I take with pawn, there is this bishop check. Which I don't mind, the king has g7. Now it is very important there's a pawn on e3. If the bishop had sight on h6, I would be getting mated. Like bishop h6 or queen h6. But I'm still safe. I'll play knight e5, attacking the bishop. I'm fantasizing about some kingside attack. I mean, this is probably the most aggressive approach. Knight f5. Attacking the queen. I do leave my pawn undefended because I am obstructing my bishop. But if white takes it, I would have some nice discovery. White plays queen f4. So let's develop the other bishop, align with the queen again. And the queen has no place to be completely safe. So now we do see queen takes e4. And I think knight g3 is the most straightforward tactic. This is a discovered fork. Attacking the queen twice, attacking the rook. I was briefly considering this move, but there is, oh, there's not queen f7. My knight controls f7. Is that worth playing? Bishop e4. Also kind of wondering about check here. I mean, the simple move is just to take material and get the rook off the board. Oh, what to do, what to do. Take a moment here. Bishop e4. Queen goes back. Yeah, I think bishop e4 is more in the spirit of the speedrun. Being ultra aggressive, not taking material, but just improving my bishop. It seems like there should be some like mating construction with all the minor pieces directed towards the king side. If queen d4, I fork. So we might see queen d2 or queen d1. Okay, well that pays off. Knight e2 check is a fork. White has one legal move, though we might see resignation here. Or maybe not. Do I continue with the trickiness? Knight f3. Oh no, my knight. The point is, after takes, king here, rook here, I'll be threatening to move my king, potentially with checkmate. Okay, white doesn't take. It's actually a smart move, attack my bishop. If I take on... Alright, let's play f5. Still leaving my knight hanging. I just want to get my queen in. And go for the kill. And if takes... Okay, white goes for this, so let's get the queen in. Oh, can I sack my queen? Not quite. Alright, I think I'll play this move. So attacking the rook, but more importantly, unleashing my bishop and pinning this pawn. So if white takes the knight, then I can take on h3, the pawn can't take back, and it'll be made in two. My opponent's resisted so far, though, so maybe they'll see the mate threat, but maybe they won't. Okay. Yeah, white has one legal move. And I'll have two different mates in one. I'll take the pawn. And GG. So another quick game. Stemming from a gambit that I haven't played in a while. This G5 gambit. Worked out nicely. In this position, white should play d4. This is the best response to defend the knight and attack the center right away. And this is objectively very good for white, at least at a higher level. So, I think I'll wrap it up there. I played... how many games? Played a total of 13 games. So, very soon I'll write to chess.com staff, and then, yeah, we'll be ready to start episode 1 of the Tricks and Traps Speedrun. So thanks everyone for watching. If you have feedback throughout the series, do let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the first episode, and stay tuned. I'll see you guys soon.